Good evening or morning by the time I will most likely upload this. This is the Angry Capitalist, and I'm doing today's episode on business planning made simplified. The main target focus of this episode will be business planning for example, doing a side hustle or something of that nature. So this is more for yourself if you want to get the snowball for a small business rolling. Additionally, it can also be used as a practice for a way of thinking. So if you want to go into entrepreneurship, I personally use this as a way to practice the skills, practice how to think about starting a business and growing a business, even if you're just doing this from a small scale for the purpose of your lesson. So I'll go ahead and set this up. So I'm going to be doing a screen share with you in just a moment. Alrighty, here we go. Chrome tab. Okay, here we go. So this is a one-page business plan that I put together for the purpose of this video. The format is one that I've used for just my own practice, and I have used it for a few projects in the past. So the title of this business plan is Steve's Nursery. The thought behind this is the side hustle that I'm using as an example is a small nursery for like fruit trees, bushes, stuff like that, something that I know that people do in their own backyards. So here we go. So we have the business plan title, Steve's Nursery. We then also have the thesis statement. So the purpose of the thesis statement is to try and condense down what it is you want to do and why. You could expand this into an executive statement or an executive summary. That just fleshes this out into more of a paragraph rather than a sentence or two. So for those of you who are just listening and not watching along, and that's totally okay, the thesis statement for this business plan is with the increased interest in sustenance gardening. So that's for people who want to grow their own fruits and vegetables. It is my belief that propagating and selling fruit trees and bushes can be a profitable and enjoyable side hustle. Of course, you may want to rewrite that to suit your own needs and purposes. A quick note on this, by the way. When it comes to a side hustle, as an example, I almost look at it as more of a monetized hobby, so something that you can enjoy, ideally something that won't take up too much of your time in the day-to-day to do, and that will also generate you some income. Moving on, so to the next part, perhaps the most important aspect of putting together a business plan, in my opinion. Customer profile. So the customers who we're targeting are Gen X and millennial homeowners located within 100 miles. Additionally, another customer that we may target are small hardware and country stores located within 150 miles. So if we think of, for example, in my town, as well as in a lot of towns around me, we have like Agways, Country Max, stores like that may be open to buying trees and shrubs from a local nursery. On to my favorite section, sales and marketing strategy. I plan on doing another video in the future that'll do more of a deep dive on sales and marketing, as well as some ways of thinking about them as a whole that I really like, but I'll digress. So we start off with marketing. Marketing, Facebook Marketplace, grocery store flyers, Instagram and Facebook posts tagged with the county for the location. So to break that down, doing an entry in Facebook Marketplace for the products we're looking to sell. In this case, this would be like trees and shrubs. Also putting in the local grocery stores around me an advertisement for like, hey, I'm selling blueberry bushes or blackberry bushes, what have you. Additionally, with social media, this is usually social media is used for selling stuff online. That being said, however, you can also use other posts or ads that'll be location specific. So this individual, given that the two people we're looking, or the people we're looking to target are Gen X and millennial homeowners, we're looking at Instagram and Facebook. Retail. So with this, I have this broken down into retail and wholesale. Retail refers to individuals. Wholesale would refer to those stores that we may be looking to sell to. So when looking at how the sales process will be conducted, what form of payments are you taking? How will the transactions work? So for retail, this is people coming to me to buy these fruit trees as well as bushes. We're only accepting cash, and the pickups will be on Sunday, and specifically Sunday. This goes back to the idea that this will be a bit of a side hustle. The owner of Steve's Nursery is a working individual, but he's got Sundays off. Usually he'll spend the Sunday actually working on the nursery or doing stuff around the house. So these individuals can come to the residence where these will be grown to buy them in person with cash. They have to pick it up. Wholesale. So wholesale, we're going to get a little bit more expansive and allowable with how we'll take payment. So we'll accept check or cash, and we will do the delivering for them on Saturdays and Sundays. Going on to product, service, and description. So this is where we'll describe what the product or the service is. So in this case, I have listed out bushes, blackberries, currants, raspberries, trees. We're looking at apple trees, apricot trees, cherry trees. And we then also have pricing. So pricing for bushes, retail, $15. Wholesale, we'll sell them at $8. Pricing for trees, retail, $50. Wholesale, $25. Now, this section right here is based on the market price that I know of for trees and shrubs in my area. You may have to adjust this a bit. So especially as we go into the next part where we'll actually go over some spreadsheets. Bear with me. I know a lot of people find them to be very tedious and frustrating. It'll be okay. So when it comes to this document, remember that this is a living document and it's subject to change. Case in point, as we go into the next section, we have the financial summary. This is just something that usually I'll do a quick blurb on there. When this was started, it was originally thinking like, yeah, we'll do a budget of like $500. And I put an asterisk behind budget at $500. Added another $100 after legal costs. So this goes back to this being a living document. Especially as you get started, feel free to go back and make notes or changes from the original. And then just below that, we have see spreadsheet. Legal. So for the legal section, how are we going to organize? So we're going to do a sole proprietorship for this. You know, we're just selling trees and shrubs. I'm not a lawyer. Check with your own attorney, or just look into your local laws and statutes if you're comfortable doing that for yourself. But for my purposes in this example, I've selected a sole proprietorship. It's just me. I'm selling trees and shrubs. It's not like I'm selling food stuff or anything that could potentially cause injury. to people who buy from me. So I don't need the legal protection of an LLC, and I'm just getting started out, so I'm not going to worry about any kind of a CRS Corp. For more details on that, once again, do your own due diligence, have your own attorney to assist you. Case in point, below sole proprietorship, we have checking with attorney. The fees and business registration will cost $100. So this goes back to another change that we made there. So especially as you're starting out, right? You may go ahead and put this together and you're going to be thinking through all of the steps. So check with an attorney on the business licensing needs. So then in this example, all we really need is a business registration, and between the advice for my attorney's time as well as to do the registration for me, plus the filing fee, we're looking at $100. Next, we have equipment. So for this purpose, we'll need gardening equipment. I have shovels, 3 snips. These are like pruners, like hand pruners. You can use them for trimming branches as well as roots. So that's why we want multiples of these. Plus, whenever we're looking at equipment, unless it's something really expensive or super durable, it's often a good idea to have backups. So then we're looking at 3 trowels as well as an irrigation system. So this will just be a water line connected to the spigot so I can water all of my trees and bushes. We then also have nursery pots, rooting hormone, compost, sawdust, hardwood cuttings, bare root trees. So going back to this example of a nursery, what many nurseries in local areas will do is they'll just buy the bare rooted trees from a bigger nursery, pot them up, let them leaf out, and let them get growing and established in the pot before selling that on to a local buyer. Additionally, we can also take hardwood cuttings and just go right ahead and root those cuttings. So we'll need some rooting hormone. We need the compost and the sawdust for a growing medium. Once again, this is a living document, so feel free to take a little bit of time. If you're doing this for your own side hustle, write it up, take a day or two to step back, let yourself ruminate and think on it, come back to it, and you probably will think of some changes that you want to make to this kind of thing. So take your time in the planning phase. Don't get overly specific, especially if it's just a side hustle and you're not seeking outside investment. Next, we have people. So for people, I just have myself. How am I going to be paid? I'm going to be paid by what's called an owner's draw. So effectively, when I have cash for this side hustle, I can pay myself based off of that. A second line item on there for people, we have will subcontract to my neighbor to water them if I go on vacation. So when it comes to a side hustle, you have to think, hey, if I'm going to leave for a week with these trees, and as an example, they have to be continued to be watered and monitored. So maybe I'll just have one of my neighbors come over, turn the spigot on. Maybe I'll just subcontract through like a pet sitting app or a tree, like a plant sitting app. I know people just go to people's houses that go on vacation and they'll water their plants for them because they'll be gone for a week or 10 days and they need to be watered. We can do that in this situation. So when it comes to people, feel free to be a little bit creative on how you'll source additional help when you need it. And think about that now, once again, in the planning stage. Location, so where's our operation and where's our customer base? So for location, I just have backyard for growing and Tri-County area for the customer base. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this screen. Next, I'm going to do another share screen here. Of the spreadsheet. So bear with me for just a moment. All right, I'll try and go through this part to make it less painful. So once again, bear with me. Okay, here we go. Go over to inventory. Actually, go over to the ledger first. So here, if you're able to see at the bottom of my screen, I do have these different tabs on the spreadsheet. So the 4 tabs that I've set up, once again, this is just for like a side hustle or for the purpose of practice. I have inventory, cash flow ledger, cash flow sheet, and balance sheet. So here we go. Starting with the cash flow ledger. So at the top line item, and I've got this dated for January 1st of 2023. This was a year in the past, I guess. Cash for budget, $500. And then I've got the various line items for the equipment that I'll need. I've got shovels, 2, that cost me $50. Snips, 3, cost me $60. Trowels, hand rake, nursery pots, I bought 100 of them. Our sawdust, label stakes, irrigation system. I also have negative $50 for attorney's advice and negative $50 for the license with the county. Now, when I was doing this, and this is once again why I'm setting this up as a living document, when it came time to get the attorney's advice as well as for the county's license, we came up a little bit short. So that's not good. Maybe you're not in a situation where you can afford the additional cost. That's a problem. Try and do your best to figure it out. But in this case, we just did another cash investment of $100. At the end of the month, that left us with a cash balance of $70. Now, there are all different financial models that you can find out there, many of which are way more complicated than this one and more in detail. But this is what I'm setting up for our purposes. Going over to inventory. So once again, we're going to be taking hardwood cuttings or bare root trees and all these different components such as the pots, the sawdust, compost, etc., to go ahead and produce these trees and bushes that we'll sell. So I just have the various production costs labeled. So our pots for the month, sawdust, label stakes, rooting hormone, cuttings, and the total cost that we put into production for this time period was $180. And we produced 100 units, and our cost per unit was $1.80. How many units did we sell in the month of January? We didn't sell a single one, and we also haven't lost any units to spoilage, damage, or theft. So 0 units lost. So we end the month with 100 units available. Now, when it comes to the inventory and the cash flow ledger, here I have this column that is titled for January. So if you go into February, you should go ahead and update that with any changes. So let's say, for example, in the month of February, we have 1 or 2 of those units spoil or get broken. So we'll go ahead and remove those units from the total and account for the fact that we've lost a few, or if we make some more, go ahead and update it in that month. Coming over here to the cash flow sheet. So I selected a format that I found to be pretty friendly on the user. And I am OCD sometimes, but I'm also a little bit ADHD. So I did not underline some of my titles here. Don't mind me as I do that now. Once again, keep working on this kind of document over and over. Go ahead and update it or change stuff as you see fit. So once again, for the statement, this is a snapshot for the month's end. So this is something that you would take your cash flow ledger, when you're done with the month of January, and you would then go ahead and enter that. So see here, we've got all the totals from January. I took those line items and I transferred them over to the cash flow sheet for month's end. One more underline. Okay, there. That'll do for now. Excuse me. So cash from operations, we got 0 sales and also have receivables. So for example, if you do a delivery to a business and hypothetically, if there's a delay that they have to do before they can pay you or before the check clears, you can enter that into receivables if it's kind of in that pending stage during the month. Once again, I'm not an accountant, so none of this is financial advice. This does not apply to you or your specific situation. This is business and financial education for practical application. All right, so then we also have cash from financing and investing. So we have the cash for the initial budget, $500, and then I did a separate line item here for additional cash investment. Let's say hypothetically, if you go out and you get a loan from the bank, let's say we want to take Steve's nursery and we want to bring it big time. If we were to receive a note from a bank, or if one of our neighbors wanted to invest in the nursery, if things get going good, you could then go ahead and record that here as well. Then we have our expenditures. So we've got all of our equipment, the attorney's advice, attorney's fees, various stuff that is needed for the production of these trees and shrubs. So our net cash, not even necessarily, cash flow. So our net cash at the end of the month was $70. Coming over here to the balance sheet, I struggle with balance sheets a lot. So please feel free to be a little bit frustrated too if you do these as well. Although they're super important. And the reason that they're important is they give you an idea as to your business's growth, as well as, frankly, honestly, if you are doing this and you're reporting taxes as you should, I'll leave the ethics of taxation out of this discussion. January. Once again here, suddenly just decided to add the month title there for that column. So we've got our cash and current assets. Then we also have receivables. These are receivables that we're waiting to get. We then also have our inventories. So this goes back to that inventory list. So the total dollar worth of all of our inventory for the month, we're going to go ahead and record that there. Then we have non-current assets. So non-current assets are things that don't change super frequently. So we have our equipment costs of $250. That's for the irrigation, the shovels, all of that. And then on the other line here, I have the cost for the business registration for that business license. I do also have the attorney's advice included in that cost as well. Those two kind of go hand in hand as professional fees plus the registration cost. We then have current liabilities. I put down accounts payable. This would be like if, let's say, for example, you got bare root trees and it was like a net 30-day thing. I'm using this as an example. So you could receive the goods, the business will invoice you, and you have a certain amount of time, in this case, net 30, so 30 days, to pay the business back. We have not had any accounts payable. We're doing everything in cash directly. Then we have non-current liabilities. Once again, if you were to take a loan on to go ahead and expand this side hustle into more serious of a business, then you'd go ahead and record that on there. Additionally, depreciation. I really recommend checking out depreciation. This could also include stuff just such as damaged equipment or equipment that you had to dispose of. So let's say we're using one of those shovels and we managed to break one. Hypothetically, we could then go ahead and record the cost of that damaged and now disposed of piece of equipment. And if you're reporting taxes, check with your accountant on what you do with that, because that's a write-off. Alrighty, equity. So on the equity section, we have owner's investment. Our total dollar amount that we put into the business in the month of January was $600, and we have no cash flow coming in, and there's no retained earnings. So retained earnings, once again, do your own diligence on financial terms and advice. But this would be, let's say, for example, we have cash left over in the business. So we generated cash in a month. We have some cash left over that didn't get spent on expenses or paid out to the owner. That would be recorded in retained earnings. So our total equity is $600, and our total assets balance that out. Hence, it's called a balance sheet. Oh, my apologies. Total liabilities and equity should balance out to your total assets. So 600 on both line items there. We know that it's balanced. And that means that our cash flow looks like it was being put together pretty well. So that this just about sums it up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go ahead and clear out both of those examples of the various line items on the spreadsheet. Hello there, my boy. Gosh, he's just hiding in the darkness over there. For those of you listening, one of my cats just pawed me on the back. So I'm going to clear off the details on the business plan as well as on the spreadsheet, and I'm going to try and link them down in the video below, in the description or in the comments. So if you want to go ahead and download or record a copy, please feel free to do so. For those of you who are interested, I used the Google Docs for the business plan, and I used Google Sheets for the spreadsheet. One neat factor, both of those, why I use those versus Microsoft Word or anything like that, is the Google version. You can share that with other people. So let's say, for example, if it weren't just myself in this hypothetical, if I had a couple other friends and we were putting a business plan together for some kind of small business or a startup or side hustle, we could share this document. You can also put comments on there. Pretty nifty feature to have for this kind of planning. I really enjoy that quite a bit, actually. And with that, we're all set. Thank you so much for listening or watching the video. If you have any questions, comments, if you've ever done anything like this, please go ahead and drop that in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this form of content, please go right ahead and like the video. If you're looking forward to more content like this, also be sure to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications and updates. With that, have a good evening and take care.